When leaving a job and they counter offer, does it ever end while staying?
So what it sounds like is he wanted a raise. They wouldn't give it to him, so he went and got. Because I've had that happen when I was younger. Is that I wanted more responsibility or a raise or whatever, and they were not willing to entertain what I wanted, and so I just went and got a job somewhere else. And then I turned in my notice, and they're like, "Well, what can we do to get you to stay?" And my attitude towards that was like, I gave you guys an opportunity. I told you what I wanted, and you just dismissed it. And now that I got another job lined up that is going to give me what I want, now you want to offer me what I want? I don't think so. But maybe he went and got a job offer, and then went to them and was like, "I'm leaving. These guys are going to pay me more." And that's just part of a negotiation. It's I remember listening to it was Donald Trump Jr. tell his story. Like when he was younger, he worked for his dad driving, I think it was a backhoe or a front end loader he was driving on a construction site. And I think Trump was paying him like 11, 12 bucks an hour. I think he was a teenager at the time. And he worked for him the whole summer, like a year or whatever. And he's just thinking, why isn't my dad giving me, it's my dad. Why isn't he giving me a raise? And so he goes to his dad. He's like, "Dad, how come you never gave me a raise?" And he looked right at him. He says, "Because you never asked." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "I did it on purpose. I'm not going to just give you a raise. It's like you have to ask it." And so he was teaching him a lesson. Like if you want something in life, you have to ask for it. And so in that particular case, it's like, did he go and say, "This is what I want," or you know, in order to stay, I really need to get X amount of dollars. Can't pay my bills or whatever. I'm having a hard time making ends meet. And they go, "Well, we got a budget. We can't do that. Maybe next year." And so if they say no, and then you go out and get a job somewhere else after they've already turned you down for that amount of money, and then when you actually get a job offer and you turn in your notice, then they want to come up and give you that money. It's like I wouldn't stay
Why?
because they weren't willing to pay you what you were worth when you asked for it. And now that you're going to leave, now they're like, because they're playing hardball with you. So it's like if somebody's not going to pay you what you're worth and you're doing a really good job and they tell you how important you are to their company and they're only willing to pay you more if somebody else is willing to pay you more, it's like that's kind of insulting.
Yeah.
So I just rather go and take the new job and work the new place because they were willing to hire me off the bat at what I wanted.
Hmm. It's a fresh new experience
Yep.
too. You're around new people and
And it
maybe.
teaches them a lesson. It's like you're
Mhm.
going to treat people like shit. You're going to lose the good
Yeah.
people. I was talking to a guy yesterday for one of the big tech firms, and this is a client I've been coaching and working with for years. Hey, working with for years, and so he's got a team of several dozen people that he manages, and he had another person that worked under him in management, and this particular employee was like a bull in a china shop, not very good with managing people. And this person had three people working under them, which were very smart, very essential to get their project done. And this person was so abrasive that three of these people just quit because they couldn't stand working for this person, which makes it harder for the team to accomplish their goals. And so he's given this employee, his underling, basically some constructive criticism and feedback in order to help them become better. And they didn't take it too well. And so what they did is they went to his boss and talked shit about him and complained. So he gets pulled into his boss's office and he explains the situation. And so they all talk and they work it out. But this particular employee just does not take constructive criticism at all, probably because they grew up in an environment where they were constantly told they were bad or they did something wrong. And so if you grow up in an environment and your parents never say, "I love you, I'm proud of you," and all they do is complain or they beat you or they tell you that you suck or you're not good enough, then you're desperate for attention and validation and you don't like criticism real well because you grew up with parents that were just constantly overly critical with you, which is I was explaining to him that's probably what happened to this particular employee is they grew up in an environment where they were constantly criticized.
Hmm.
And so that's why they can't take any kind of constructive criticism and feedback, even when it's artfully explain to them in a tactful way. And so just recently, this has happened again where another person left that was essential to the team because they don't like working under this person because they're an abrasive asshole. And once again, he sat down with this employee and gave him some more feedback, and they didn't like it too well. And so what they did is they went right back to his boss and complained again. And so now they're in the same situation. So you got somebody that's on the team that is running people off the team because of their people skills suck. And on top of that, they have this entitled attitude that, well, my boss gave me constructive criticism, so let me go to my boss's boss and talk shit about them and make them look bad. And so now he's going to have a conversation with him and his boss with this other employee in the room to try to resolve things. And I was like, that person just is not a team player.
Mm.
And what was interesting is that I was watching a video from a very famous tech entrepreneur talking about a situation like that when you have people on a team. If you got 20 people on a team and one of them is going in the opposite direction and is always a contrarian and doesn't get along with the other people, then you just need to sit that person down and tell them it's not working out and get them off the team because they're disruptive to team harmony. And on top of that, this person is trying to make their boss look bad. And more than likely, if they don't, if this they're going to hear things they don't like, they'll probably go to his boss's boss, go above them to try to get both of them in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of people are just not good to have in your company because it's, you got to be able to take constructive criticism and feedback. Nobody likes it, but this particular person, that was their way to deal with it, was to kind of become aggressive and vindictive and in essence try to get their boss fired, all because they got butthurt over constructive criticism and feedback, all while ignoring the fact they ran a bunch of people that were essential to the team. They made these people so miserable they quit the company.
Wow. Sounds like high school.
Yep. That's things that go on in the corporate world. So, a lot of times I have conversations with high level executives and they've got issues like this, or the guy gets put under somebody that's got tenure and they have duties and things taken away that are really important to them, that they really love and brings them joy in their work. And now, because they're under somebody else that's got tenure, those things are taken away and given to this other person. And so now they're going to work every day with a lot less job satisfaction because they're not able to do the things that they really love that are their core competencies. And so there's a way to tactfully do that because you don't want to make that person look bad that you work under. You want to have them as an ally and enlist their help. And you go to them and you say, hey, there's all these things I used to do when I was running this team. And man, I miss them. It really brings me great joy and satisfaction in my work. It's like something that's just, I gotta be able to do. And it's like, is there anybody that we can talk to, or, maybe I can make a lateral move and move to a different team where I can get some of those responsibilities. Who do you think I should talk to? How do you think I should approach this with, the higher ups? And so you go to this person and you ask them for advice, even though you work under them. You don't want to blow them up and say, because they got tenure and somebody higher up in the corporate chain likes that person, even though they're not really a superstar employee. You don't want to piss them off because you don't know who they know. And so, especially in the corporate world, as the old saying goes, it's don't step on people on your way up the corporate ladder because you're going to see them on your way back down the corporate ladder. And so it's like you have to go and enlist help because you don't want to go above those people and make the person you work under look bad. And so what's interesting is a couple of years later, after all that stuff worked out great, and this person is in a really great high-level position at a big tech firm, that now they have an employee working underneath them that did not handle it that way, is running people off the team and being nasty and being vindictive, and they're going to probably end up getting fired because of that. And they'll learn that lesson one way or another. If you don't work well with others, you're not going to work good on a team.
Yeah.
That's like when I used to serve. It's like when you're busy, you have to rely on each other. You're supposed to be running food, helping clear plates. You want to help people so your guests come back. You could have that guest next time, and if you're not helping your fellow server, friend, whatever, then the guest's going to have a bad time and they're not going to come back.
Yep.
And you know what? That's money out of their pocket. That's money out of the company's pocket, and that's also money out of yours.
And then the restaurant goes out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about, like, taking the restaurant industry, how many times have all of us been in a restaurant that's just beautiful? They spend millions of dollars renovating it and making it just look killer and have a great ambiance. And you go eat there and the food sucks. And on top of the
Salt
food
7.
sucking, the service sucks.
Salt 7.
That's like the breakfast place that's across the street from there. I used to go there all the time when the dad was alive, and it was good. And everybody was nice. I got like usually what I asked for most of the time. But now the son sold it. The food is just not good at all. I mean, they had diner food anyways, so you know what you're getting, but it's horrible. And half the time when you order like a hamburger, like how do you not have pickles?
I hate pickles.
How do you not have pickles?
I hate
Oh,
pickles.
I'm a pickle connoisseur. I love them, but it's like I won't eat
Give me
it.
my fucking pickles.
I won't eat it, and if it doesn't have pickles, I'm like, I have to ask first if I want a hamburger. I'm like, do you have this? Or they'll say no. Okay, I'll get something else, like a club sandwich or something. But it's just like, and nobody's like, I'm not trying to like bash, but when I go in there, nobody knows the menu, and I'm not trying to say anything, but nobody speaks English. So I'm not trying to say nothing, but it's like they don't know the menu and they don't know what.
Yeah, they can't really help you.
They don't know what the stuff is. Like one of my friends, Michael, he likes to have au jus, and she goes, she'll bring back something totally different. And he goes, no, for this sandwich. It's like.
Is it a Latin place or?
No, it's American. It's American diner, but it's just weird. Like they don't know the menu, but they also don't know what the things on the menu are.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult to run a
crazy
restaurant.
thing about the restaurant business is just low standards. It's like the guy that wrote the question, the people that he was working for didn't appreciate him enough to pay him what he was worth and to keep him happy. Instead, they're only willing to do it if they're potentially going to lose him. It's like, no.
That's disrespectful.
You snooze, you lose.
So because I've had that experience happen when I was younger, working for other people. They wouldn't give me a raise. They wouldn't give me the money that I wanted. I was like, you don't know who you're dealing with. And I'd get every job I'd go after, and I just went and got a better job. It was closer to where I lived, and they paid me more money. And when I turned in my notice, which was very satisfying because I really didn't like working for one of the partners. He was a dickhead. And he's like, well, what can I do to get you to stay? I was like, man, I came to you a long time ago and told you what I wanted, and you just blew me off and gave me a bunch of excuses. And I know how much we're making on these jobs. I know what you had budgeted for my salary, and we were way under that. And I wasn't asking for a ton of extra money. It was just what I was worth. And then this other company was happy to have me. And they wanted to make sure that I was coming on board and that I was happy. And you didn't give a shit until now I'm walking out the door.
Wasn't that, you had that, what was it called? Service merchandising too?
Oh, that was another thing there. It's, my brother was like, oh yeah, he quit. Like, it's my brother running his mouth about things he didn't know. And then the manager takes me out of the system. And when I'm in, Gainesville, I called and I'd worked for them for years, since I was in high school, and I was almost 21 at that point. It was almost 3 years I'd worked for them. And because I wrote about that in Mastering Yourself, and she couldn't have cared less. She just wanted to get me off the phone because her attitude was I wasn't working there anymore. It wasn't her store. I wasn't working for her. And she's like, your brother told us she quit. There's nothing I can do. It was like, well, my brother's not me.
Yeah. That's unprofessional.
Yeah. And then she didn't give a shit. And so they were like, because it was a college town, so I had a ton of cheap labor. So I went from making like almost $7 an hour to like $4.20 or $4.30 an hour, whatever it was. And in a college town, that's a lot of money, at least, especially 30 something years ago in Gainesville. That I was counting on that to be able to make that kind of money as a transfer, and because they looked there and said, "Well, you're not in the system. It says you resigned." I was like, "What?"
I'd have been pissed.
Can't you do like a lawsuit or something on them for doing that?
No,
I was like 20, 21 years old. It wasn't even worth it. You got to get an attorney. You got to pay him. It's just better to either go get a different job or whatever. But when I remember when I came back and I went back to work there, I got hired back at my old salary. I mean, they put me in the computer, no problem, gave me what I was making before. And then when I got the job at Chuck's Steakhouse 10 and Bar, I didn't feel bad at all because my friends were like, "Hey, let's go to Daytona for spring break." And I was like, "I can't. I got to work." And you have to put in your notice that to get a certain amount of time off, and I couldn't just leave. And my friend was like, "Well, what if I can get you another job?" I was like, "Doing what?" He's like, "Chuck's Steakhouse. They're looking for a bartender to do day bar." He's like, "You make a lot more money there than doing this shit." And I was like, he's like, "Let's all go to lunch. Let's go by there." I was like, "All right." And because we used to go in there and drink all the time when we were underage. That was one of the places we could get served at. And so I went in and I talked to the manager. I was a clean cut kid. And I think the interview lasted maybe 3 minutes, if that. And I told him, "Oh, yeah, I know your brother." And, "Oh, we've been," he's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 21. And I was like, "Yeah, we've been coming here for years." And he was like, "Oh," because he knew his brother. His brother was kind of the black sheep of the family. And he was working there because his brother was one of the owners and the managers. And so we had a laugh about that. He's like, "Yeah, can you start Monday?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to be in Daytona all next week, but I can start the following Monday." He's like, "That'd be great." And he's like, "Yeah, the girl that's been doing it, she's been making $500-600 a week on average." I was like, "Wow, that was more than twice what I was making at Service Merchandise." And then so I go back to the Service Merchandise and tell him I'm resigning. He's all right. Well, can you train this? We got this new guy starting today, and he's like, "After everything I've done for you." And then I was reminding him about what happened when I moved up to Gainesville. You guys totally fucked me over, and the manager wouldn't even do anything. She could have called corporate and said, "Oh, this is a mistake. He's a transfer." She wasn't even willing to do that. She didn't give a shit. And so when people treat you that way, I was like,
nah.
he's like, "Oh, I know what it was. I told him that, oh, by the way, I'm about 2 hours. I'm going to Daytona for spring break." And I was supposed to work the whole day. He's like, "What? After everything I've done for you?" I was like, yeah, I was like, "Fuck you, dude. The way you guys treated me," I was like, "I don't care." It felt good. It felt good to do.
Stick it to the man.
Yeah.